Welcome, one and all, to the High Performance Human Podcast. It's your man, Andy, here, and I am absolutely delighted to be joined by a fellow English person, someone who I've only just recently gotten to know, but through the reputation that she has grown and therefore I have heard about, um, Kate Toon is someone, when it comes to the word, and I hate the word authenticity, Kate. I really do. I think it's being bastardized like there's no tomorrow. But if there was a picture with a definition, it would be this incredible human right here. Kate Toon is the founder of Stay Tuned Inc. She is the author of two incredibly brilliant books, actually, Six Figures While You Sleep and Six Figures in School Hours. She is an entrepreneur who she isn't afraid of giving stuff a go. She's also got a bookshop. She's a coach. She is a mentor for small businesses. She's won umpteen number of awards for the support of local businesses and their owners. What don't you do?
Oh, obviously, I don't relax and have no idea how to just chill. But this makes me sound super obnoxious. It's all happened over a very long period of time, though. So I'm quite long in the tooth. So it's not like I'm some buoyant young entrepreneur who did it all in the last week.
No, that's absolutely correct. Despite the youthful exuberance that she exudes, Kate has been in Australia, having moved over from the motherland in 1999. So she was ready for a new start in the new millennium. And my word, she's done an incredible job. Before I ask you to give us a bit of an MO as to who you are, right? One word that I want a definition of, please, which is bumfluencer.
Bumfluencer. Well, look, as I've built many businesses, I've also built my bottom. So about 2 years ago, I had no bottom whatsoever. And I went to the gym, and through a lot of hard effort, I built a bottom. And leggings companies started sending me leggings to wear on my Instagram. And I love free stuff. I'm from the north of England. We're quite cheap. And so I shared my pictures of my bottom on Instagram, and also I think I have that on LinkedIn because I find LinkedIn absolutely ludicrous. So I like to just slightly take the piss out of it and put stupid things in my bio and see if anyone notices. And you did, so that's great.
Well, the word bum is just start for 10, because let's face it, unless you are from the north of England, you're not quite sure what a bum is.
No, I guess in America it means a homeless person, I think.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it does. Yeah, absolutely. Very, very good. I love that. This is what I mean, gang. This is the type of conversation we're going to have.
Bottoms.
About bottoms,
Bottoms.
about
Like,
bottoms and building your bottom, and getting
bottom line.
yes, and getting stuff for free, is wonderful. All right, Kate, this is going to be so much fun. Thank you so much for joining us. And it's an absolute delight to be in your presence. For those people that don't know who you are, can you just give us a little bio, a little MO as to what got you to this point?
Well, I started off working in advertising at agencies like Ogilvy and places like that. And then when I got up the duff, I left
That's great,
advertising
man.
and
Well, by the way, Northern England to Northern England, I will be a translator for
you okay, you
the maths.
translate.
Yeah, I'll translate for you.
And we may get more and more northern as this goes on because northern is
Definitely.
rubs off. So when I became with child about 15 years ago, I started my own thing. And at the beginning, I did anything and everything. Then I narrowed it down to copywriting, and then SEO copywriting, and then SEO specifically. And in about 2015, I kind of realized that this whole exchanging your time for money thing wasn't working for me. And I started developing, I guess you call them passive income streams, digital products. And that's when I kicked off memberships and my flagship course, which is a big SEO course that I run. And these days, I think of myself more as a kind of a mentor and an author, but I still have my courses and my memberships and things like that. So yeah, digital marketing, generic stuff now. A bit of SEO, a bit of copywriting, a bit of everything.
Yeah, cool. Can I ask for someone that is very much in the game but is flying solo like you are within your world, um, how difficult is it to keep up with all of the because from when you started in digital to where it is now, the speed at which things are changing and just fairly ridiculous, fairly crazy. How do you manage to keep or do you manage to keep up with it?
Well, I think, in SEO specifically, I spend a month each year catching up. So I'm on top of it because I run a podcast and I speak to SEO experts. It's one of the reasons I started the podcast was I could interview people who are cleverer than me. And
Yeah, fair play.
yeah, once a year I do a deep dive and kind of catch up on everything and update the course. With digital marketing, I mean, I am doing it. So I'm still marketing my own business. So I'm in the game. Yeah. Am I amazing at TikTok? No, but I am aware of, what it is and how to use it. And I think you got to pick your battles and go where your demographic is. But I am interested in it. The only thing I'm slightly less interested in is AI. I just can't engender the passion for AI that lots of people seem to have. I find it desperately tedious, to be honest. So I feel like that is a sign that I'm getting a bit old and tired. But who knows? We'll see.
Well, the thing is, though, right, and it's interesting because it's kind of reflected in the stock market a little bit. That AI, everyone obviously went ham for it, right? Especially when Chat GPT, came to prominence and whatnot, and all of a sudden, everyone's like machine learning, even though it's been around for donkeys already.
Yeah.
But it looks like society, it's almost starting to become white noise already.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's like when Starbucks tried to move to Australia and kind of society just rejected them. I think most normal everyday people don't give a stuff anyway. It was only us digital marketers. They might buy a little app and, turn themselves into elephants with the app once or twice and then they're done with it. But like, I think us digital marketers were like, oh, whoop de doo, or terrified. Most people use terrified. And now it's like, well, once you actually day to day try to use it, sometimes it's more of a hindrance than a help. Um, you spend longer editing the content it's spat out than you would if you just written it yourself. So yeah, I don't know. I'm also very much a wait and see kind of marketer. So I don't jump on the latest thing. I wait and see if it, because I've done it. I can't remember what it was called. What was that thing where you join little groups on your phone and talk to each other? Clubhouse.
Yep.
I was huge on Clubhouse, Andy. I had 10,000 followers in a week. I was famous. I'd come into rooms and people would be like, it's Kate Toon. It was amazing. It was my brief taste. Where's Clubhouse now? You know, went all in on that and it was a miserable failure. So I'm not going all in again. I'll wait and see.
Yeah, interesting that one because you're absolutely spot on. The need to pick your battles, to just talk to what you said a few sentences ago, is so unbelievably necessary because there are so many divergent paths that you could go down just in this world, just in this little world, right?
Yeah.
And you see it countless numbers of times, and I know I've made the mistake more than once where you end up spreading yourself way too thin, getting no traction anywhere, rather than more than surface level. And you kind of wonder what the hell it was all about, right?
Yeah.
And whatever enthusiasm you had in the first place is just dissipated by the sort of generalization of everything you do, right?
That's it. And it's all very much top of funnel stuff. And I think a lot of us spend a lot of time waving our arms around on social media, trying to get people's attention. And I think over time, I've really, really learned to focus on bottom of funnel, like the people who've already bought from me before, my loyal customers, trying to get that repeat purchase, trying to keep the people I've got. So I spend a lot of time in that world, generating content for the people who've already bought from me rather than trying to dance on reels. I mean, I will dance on reels because I love it and I am a bumfluencer.
I was going to say you got a flashy bum.
It's not a flashy bum, but again, as well, I don't take any of it too seriously, so I'm not looking at a piece of content and going, this piece of content is going to make or break me. It's all noise, like you said, host not white noise. And you just wear people down over time until they go, oh my God, all right, I'll just buy your thing. But yeah, I do pick my battles, and generally I pick the battles where my customers are in the battle. My customers aren't, I mean, everyone's on TikTok these days, but it's not a great place to be marketing SEO. I just don't think it is. Do you know what I mean? I think there's better places I could spend my time, and so I try to spend them there.
Nice. Now, before we dig into it, as per every conversation I have, I like to find out what everybody's definition of a high performance human is. I've got my belief. It comes in 4 elements: success, connection, influence, and happiness, and they're all sort of interconnected in a bit of an ecosystem where one can't survive without the other. Interested to hear your definition, Kate Toon, because you are clearly, and I'm saying this in an entirely positive way, you are clearly one out of the box.
Am I? I don't know. I don't really think of myself as a high performance human. I would sort of apply that to someone like David Goggins or someone like, or an athlete or something like that. I think I'm a hard working person. So I think I work hard, and I think that's our northern background, right? That's how we were brought up. Um, and I think, unfortunately, for a long time, I did measure my success on my productivity, like how much I can physically produce, which is a recipe for disaster. But I think I have a vaguely relentless enthusiasm for what I do. And for me, it's not passion, but I do have a strong ability to turn up each day, regardless of how the previous day went, and just do the work, to sit at my desk, whether I'm happy or sad, whether I'm inspired or motivated, just sit there and get it done and shut up. Do you know what I mean? And again, I don't know if that's my background, but it's like, just get on with it, and that serves me very well. Just putting the hours in, to be honest. I mean, not that many hours. I only work school hours, as my book suggests. When I'm at my desk, I'm productive, I'm focused, and I concentrate, and I don't second guess everything. I just get on with it and try. And if it fails, it fails.
Now, before we hit record, and you just brought it up there again, you've been quite pointed at, I don't know whether it's a disdain for the word passion. What's this?
Well, it's like, I feel like it's like relationships. They all start with passion, and then about 6 months later, you're arguing about who's going to take the recycling out. And I feel it's the same with your business. Passion will get you so far, but persistence is much more powerful. All the P's. So, this enthusiasm, whatever, has to come with some degree of measured application and implementation and calmness and doing the work, and I feel like sometimes passion is a bright spark that burns out. What you need is like a low ember that keeps just burning away over a long period of time. And or maybe I'm just jaded and old. I don't know. And I did work. A lot of people say, "Oh, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life." Of course, you bloody will.
I hate that. Right.
And passion is, like, if you've got a mission. I don't see, this is it. Often people say to me, "What's your why?" They've all read Simon Sinek's book. What's your why? What's your mission? Boo? What's your bigger purpose? Oh, porpoise. And I'll be honest and say I don't really have one. And this is a terrible answer for an entrepreneur, because you're all supposed to have this deeper, meaningful purpose. And I don't really have one. I like to just show up, have as little drama as possible, talk to nice people, help a few people, and then finish work, and watch Netflix with my son. And I want to do that day after day after day. That's it. It's not wild. It's not exciting. I don't want a Lamborghini. I don't want to be famous. I just want to have a good life. And unfortunately, that is not admired necessarily in the high performance entrepreneur world. You're supposed to constantly be striving, but I've striven enough. I'm stroved.
You've all stroved out.
Yeah.
But it's very, very interesting that the first reaction to high performance goes to you, like your David Goggins and whatnot. You are not you won't be in yourself, but your vernacular is sort of self-defamatory with respect to
Self-effacing. That's
self-deprecating. Yeah. Ironic coming from a bumfluencer. But I bet you're right. For all of the striving, for all of the striving, the insistence of having to run through walls and all that sort of shit. I reckon if you asked any of those people how important peace was to them, I bet you half of them would give you an arm and a leg to have peace.
It's underrated.
It is so underrated. So underrated. And it's not something that's really been talked about on this podcast yet.
Yeah, because I think I used to, mistake contentment for boredom, and I used to be seeking the thrills, the highs, the low, the roller coaster. And it's because we live in this dopamine world where we want quick shots of happiness rather than this serotonin, where the slow release happiness. I always, one of my things I talk about is I had one day with my course where I sold it out in 8 hours. I made $150,000 in 8 hours.
Wow.
Before that, I'd not made much money. I was a copywriter. That was one of the first big launches of my course. And it was amazing. But, I shut my computer down and I emptied the dishwasher and made tea and went to bed. And the next day I had to do the same thing again. It obviously changed my life to some degree, gave us some financial security, but it wasn't life changing in the ways that I thought it would be. And that kind of constant roller coaster ride is no way to live, like the constant cortisol release and the stress and the whatever. So I will exchange and I am. So I'm coming down the mountain. I've done my $1 million years. I've had my big launches. And I'm actually, each year I set my budget 100 grand less than the year before. Because I just want to do a bit less. I'm getting older. Time is short. I want to spend time with my teenage son before he goes off. And that's my priority. And what a joy and how lucky I am that I have a business that I can do that with. Because, I realize I'm coming from massive privilege here. Oh, I'm just going to set my budget 100 grand a year. So I sound like a knob. But what I mean is I'm not setting it higher. I'm not pushing myself. I'm not beating myself with a stick. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they've got a carrot on a stick, which is exciting for the first few years, but then it's just all stick and no carrot.
Yeah, I agree with that.
No way to live.
Got the t-shirt on that one. Now, you talk about, there's already so much that I'm basically going to ignore the itinerary from here on in.
Okay.
As a little FYI, you talk about not having a purpose. And that is very contradictory to every single person that's been on here.
God, sorry.
No, I bloody love it. No, I bloody love it. This is fun. This is bloody interesting. I love it. Amazing. What I would ask is, do you believe? Did you have, like, back in the day? So before you had these epiphanies and whatnot, right? And you there must have been a part of you that had bought into that narrative, right?
Not really. I mean, I'm gonna be really honest with you again. I had a purpose, but it was completely selfish. I wanted to I wanted to pay my mortgage off. I wanted to have some financial security, and I wanted to create just a little bit of generational wealth for my son. Not too much, because I don't want him to be a wanker, but I wanted to give him a slightly easier ride than I had. Because there were a lot of struggles as I was growing up or whatever. And so that was it. It was purely financial. And for the first few years, it was money, money, money. And then I became egotistical, and I was like, I want to be famous. Like, I'm an SEO. I want to be as famous as Neil Patel, as famous as Ram Fishkin. And I spoke on stages around the world, and that was brilliant. But it didn't really reach my soul. Do you know what I mean? My smile wasn't reaching my eyes. And then it became like, I want my customers to love me. I want testimonials. I want to feel like I'm really making a difference in their life. And then you do, but then, then you spend all this time with people and they move on. They join someone else's program. I'm just a person to them. I'm not that important. And now as life goes on, I'm like, it's so cheesy. But I'm like, my dad passed away a couple of months ago. And, one of the things we did was like go around the house and look at all his things and all his stuff that he's amassed. And he's just gone. So it's only a memory in a few people's heads. And soon those people will be dead and he'll just be gone. And he's like, life is so short. All those other reasons are kind of stupid when you come down to it. And it's like, when you die, do you want a CV life or a eulogy life? Eulogy life,
That's a really interesting distinction. Do you want a CV life or a eulogy life?
It's not mine, I must admit. I heard it on a podcast, so I wish I could credit it to whoever said it. It's not mine, but it really made me stop and think. Kate had 700 members in her membership and blah, blah, blah. Kate was a great mum, a good friend, a nice partner. And I unfortunately do believe that it's hard to do both. The people that we admire, the Elon Musks, I don't know if we admire him anymore. This, the Apple guy, sort of Gates. I think the top 12 billionaires are all divorced. And I think categorically, if you read through it, most of them have terrible relationships with their children, and they'll never get that back, So I think it's very hard to do both really, really well. That's why I wrote a book about it, how to be a good parent and have a good business. It's really hard. Got to give. And unfortunately, in my life, I've made the wrong choice sometimes. I've given to the business when I shouldn't have done. And I can't get that time back,
When was it though? So you mentioned then that you sort of started to become a bit egotistical. You started getting a bit high in your own supply.
I did.
What was there a situation or a circumstance or an event or something that was there a lightning bolt of some description that made you go, oh shit, who am I becoming?
Well, it was more that to do that was about 2017. I went to Amsterdam 1 week, and then 2 weeks later I went to New York. Now I live in Australia.
Yeah.
Those are some brutal trips.
That's big.
And I didn't see my son for about 3 weeks, and my son was about 8. And when I came back from the trip, I said, "Oh, should we do Lego at the kitchen table? Should we do Lego?" He's like, "Oh, I'm not really into Lego anymore." And I was like, that was one of our best things. And he's over it. And I've missed that little window. And I tell you, it just, speaking at events is hard as a parent, just hard, it's that period of your life. But I'd give $1 million to sit at the kitchen table and do Lego with my son again. He's 15 now. It's not going to happen, and I think that was the epiphany. It wasn't while I was away, and it wasn't that I was getting up myself. It's like the exchange is too much. I'm not willing to give up that to have that.
Man, and it's crazy how something as subtle as that can have such a seismic reaction in who we are. I have my own version of that with my daughter, who was 1.5 at the time, and as I mentioned maybe once, I think, on this podcast before, I never had a bad relationship with alcohol. I was a happy drunk and, always in control and all the rest of it. So, never drank through the week. Very healthy relationship with alcohol, if you can have one. But because of the blocking of serotonin and all the rest of it, it's like my hangovers in my head. My head was cloudy and it was getting longer and longer. And then when she came up to us and said, "Daddy, come play," on a Monday after work, so I was functioning. I'd done deals and whatnot in that day, got home, still feeling hungover from the Saturday. She goes, "Daddy, come play." And I fobbed her up and she innocently went, "That's okay, Daddy, I go to bed." And from that moment, that one single moment, not one beer has passed these lips since, and she's 10. So, so it's weird how crazy shifts like that can happen. And what you said then about how your Musks, your Bezoses, all those sorts of people, right? What you said about the fact that they haven't got good relationships with their children, and then you tie that to what you said previously about you become nothing. Like when you die, your stuff isn't kept. You are the only people that are likely to remember you are your kids.
Well, this is it. And the line I use in my book, which is a horrible one, is the only people who remember you working so hard is your kids.
Yeah.
No one else will care. And just on the alcohol thing, I think, that is such a part of the culture of entrepreneurialism and these events, and it's almost the flip side of being high performance, that you're operating at such a high level that you need alcohol to kind of calm you down, to de-stress. And I don't drink either. And I just got sick of operating at 60%, Yeah, I was all right. I was like a functioning drinker, keep going. I'd still do the same stuff, but I wasn't enjoying it. And life had the sound turned down. Do you know what I mean? And but I think that's another thing that we don't talk about with this world that we're in. The number of people who are achieving great things, but God, you don't see what goes on behind closed doors. You don't know, how much they're drinking or other substances or eating too much, or everything's just at extremes: extreme work, extreme consumption, extreme stress, extreme cortisol. It's awful. So
it is.
Let's talk about something happy.
No, I want to. No, I want to take a bit of a left-hand turn. And talk to your point about how you think LinkedIn is ridiculous and you like to take the piss. Go. Why? Why is LinkedIn ridiculous?
Well, I mean, the just all social media platforms are ridiculous to a degree. Instagram with its aesthetic and TikTok with its virality, and X now is just it's like a war. Yeah, a cesspool, exactly. I just find that, the pomposity on LinkedIn and I'm so excited to be featured in this article when it was a paid media feature, and just the account on Instagram that I love that takes the piss out of the hero's stories. Like we've just told a little story that was meaningful to us, but there's so many people like, when I was playing baseball with my son, he said to me, Dad, and you're like, you've never even played baseball with your son. Like, you don't even have a son. You know what I mean? So I just think it's funny. And I also, I love leaving little sort of weird Easter eggs. So someone comes to my profile and it looks pretty good. At the moment, I'm holding an AI Moodeng. Do you know who Moodeng is?
No.
Oh my God, have you been living under a rock?
Yes.
Moodeng means bouncy pork, and it's the name of a baby hippo in Thailand Zoo.
Right.
You know what I mean now.
I know what you mean now.
Yeah, Moodeng is a way of life for me now. So anyway, I just subtly changed my profile to a picture of me holding Moodeng, and he's got 5 legs because AI can't do legs and fingers. And no one noticed for ages, and then every now and again now I just get a little message from someone saying, call Moodeng. And it'll be some bizarre CEO of some financial institution. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's so worthy on that channel. It's like I've shared my Bumfluencer photos on there too. I'm just like, you got to be yourself wherever you are. But for some reason, when people enter the doors of LinkedIn, they put on a grey suit and become tedious. And I don't know why that is. So.
Or allow me to retort.
I'm going to go and check your profile out now.
I've got to find a picture of a baby fucking.
Moodeng.
Yes. Now, I'm only going to say this out of my own experience, right? I know for a fact, and I've got this. I've had this verified that I have, for me, like I personally have lost business, and this will reflect in a lot of small business owners, right? I know I have lost business when I've had flashes when I've gone fuck it, and I've just been myself, and I know for a fact that has cost me business. There are a lot of small business owners, sole traders and what have you, that feel that they are, while they're at this sort of upside, they're on the upward side of the mountain, right?
Yeah.
They've
got to be careful.
They feel that they have to be careful, filtered. It has to be a refined version of themselves through fear of that instant reprisal. You talk about how your reputation can be built over the space of how many years and destroyed in a post, essentially. So can you talk to that, please? Because you've been, like I said, you've made it very, very clear. And so this isn't Kate being pompous in any way, shape, or form. She knows she's on the other side of the mountain, but she's gone up the other side to get there in the first place, right?
Yeah.
Talk to this, please, because I know that this is going to be a problem for a heck of a lot of people.
Well, look, I think, there's degrees. So I will never, I won't really talk about religion. Well, that's not true, actually. So when I began, so I started off doing what everyone else did. I was a copywriter. I was doing posts about how to use a semicolon, and I just wasn't getting any cut through. And then I had an opportunity to write for a publication back then that was called Flying Solo. And I just introduced some gentle wit and some, asides. Like, it wasn't laugh out loud funny, and it wasn't risque. It was just gentle asides. And I built on that over years and years. Now, believe me, I'm sure I've lost business. I'm sure that, and people say to me, someone said to me the other day, I was telling someone you were my coach, and they said, oh yeah, Kate Toon, she's a bit much. And I was like, thanks for sharing that with me. But I am a bit much for some people. But, if I were to ask a room full of people what their favorite ice cream was, I doubt they would say vanilla, right? They would pick a weird flavor, and it would have a memory, and there'd be a reason they chose that. I'd rather have people loving and hating me than people being casually indifferent. So I have raving fans, and then people who would rather stick forks in their legs than talk to me. But I am careful. So I like to be contrarian, but not for the sake of it. bother to start arguments just for fun. If I believe in it, I'll say it. So, like, I'm a vegetarian. I've been a vegetarian since I was 11. Do I talk about that much? No. I'm sober. Do I go on about that too much? No, because it's not. I talk about it, but I don't go on about it. But also, even when you've got to, you've got to be. You can be hoisted by your own petard, and you can be cancelled very easily. I recently put a post up saying that I loathe Donald Trump, but I think I'd rather have I think I said a bag of hair as president than Donald Trump. And I had several people email me saying, I'm unfollowing you because you shouldn't be talking about politics. And I'm like, brilliant. Bye. Bye-bye. Glad you've gone. Clean my list up. I wouldn't want to work with you anyway if you support Trump. So see ya. So yes, it's from the point of view that I am not counting every penny, but I'd rather not work with people who don't have the same values as I have. And so the only way I'm going to know that is if I share my values.
And I understand that. And I think it talks to a broader issue that I've mentioned in a few episodes recently around people really struggling to identify their own identity, let alone maintain it and uphold it, right, in the public eye. I think it is a huge core issue in humanity at the minute. And I think the misinterpretation of what identity is, I think, is another big one. People think it's dressing up as the opposite sex and whatever. When it's really that is a representation of an identity. It's not their identity, full stop, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about value. I mean, I work in the personal branding space, so one of the first things we do is identify your values. What do you stand for? Do you not stand for? What would you get on a soapbox and shout for? What hill would you die on, right? And also embracing your negative qualities. Like, I'm quite sarcastic. I use humor throughout everything. It's not to everyone's taste. There will be consequences for that. My brand, who I am is who I am, and you like it or you don't. But that means I can turn up anywhere in any situation and be me and know that I'm on brand. It's not a curated, PowerPoint in a folder. I am my brand. And that is such a relief and allows me to do an awful lot of marketing off the cuff because I don't have to think about it.
That's a really, really interesting point. That very, very interesting point. Team, make sure that you replay that little bit because one of the big issues that a lot of solopreneurs, a lot of young, small businesses, not necessarily young, but small businesses, they have real drama with creating content. And a lot of the time it's because they think way too much. And so we could then connect the dots here and say, if you're thinking too much, then it's not the fact that you've not got any ideas. It's the fact that you're not allowing who you are to speak out. Is that fair?
I think that's fair. Yeah, because everything you say is on brand. And probably if you've been doing this for more than 2 weeks, everything you say has value. Someone somewhere doesn't know what you know. You may think it's obvious, but someone somewhere is going to get benefit from that. And it's never going to be a single post that changes your business. It's continued effort, not necessarily in a consistent every Monday way, but just showing up over time again and again and again. And then, as I said, wearing people down. And then people get to know who you are. Now, as I said, I'm sure I have lost business. I'm sure I'm not for everyone. I could have many more followers if I was a bit, worn outfits and blue confetti like a lot of female entrepreneurs do on Instagram. But I can't. It would be black confetti. I can't do it. And the thing is, they're going to find that out at some point. When you meet some of these people you've seen online and in person, they're just horrendous people. They're not like the people there. And that is worse. They're going to find out who I am at some point. So I may as well just show it now. I also don't think that being funny and playful is anti-professional and clever. Like, I think I'm very professional and super clever. And those two things aren't in conflict. You can be both. So yeah.
Well, you can argue. I'm desperate to get a couple of comedians on this podcast because I think they're the last bastion of truth, to be perfectly honest. And the fact that they can do it whilst not being cancelled, because cancel culture doesn't really apply to those guys, right? Is just so totally fascinating to me because the level of intellect that they have when it comes to how they view the world and then being able to then translate that intellect into commutable sentences that can get taken in by normal people like me is just, it's epic. It's just the most epic skill.
I think every public speaker should go and watch a lot of comedy, because it's also the ability to, start the set with a single thought and then bring the whole set back to that thought at the end. The way that they do that, the wrap up and whatever.
Masterful.
Beautiful. I love it.
Absolutely masterful how they'll just say something at the start and then the very, very last joke will be back to the very beginning. It's masterful how they do it.
I think a lot of business owners and high performance people that sort of think they're there to disseminate information, and like to get information from their brain to yours. But we are here to entertain. Let's be clear. If I'm speaking on a stage, honestly, you could learn what I was going to say by reading a blog post if you're on, or probably quicker. But I'm here, let me entertain you. Do you know what I mean? And if you make people laugh or you make people feel, they remember what you've said. Better than if you just show them a PowerPoint with 72 bullet points on it. And if a little bit of self-deprecation brings people towards you, makes them feel that you're approachable and trustable. If you're not up there going, oh, I'm the great I am, but if you're sharing your failures and your ups and downs, people want to see that. Because no one, if you wanted to be a singer tomorrow, which I'm sure you do, you wouldn't go, I want to be as good as Beyonce. That's never really probably going to happen. You want to be good enough to sing down the local pub, and then at the karaoke, and then on and on from there. So I don't know. I just think being relatable requires us to show humor, requires us to show failure and flaws and show imperfections. And if you do that, then you're free. You can post whatever you like.
And it is a free.
You like it.
It is such a freedom. I know for a fact through my own sort of posts and whatnot that the ones that I do off the cuff are always the ones that get every single time without fail. The ones that I put thought into and think it's somebody Van Gogh masterpiece ends up being dog shit. Ends up doing nothing.
See it. I mean, it's the overall, like, so I'll do dog shit. I'll do like a clever, clever, smart, clever, daft, clever, daft, clever. I'll do, they talk about jumping on the social media train. I'll do something super silly and engaging, which gets hundreds of followers. And then the next one will be a sales pitch for something I'm selling. So it's light and shade and playing the game. And, overall, I think the impression of me is that I vaguely know what I'm talking about, but I take my business seriously. I just don't take myself seriously. And I think that's how I've been able to stay in this industry now. Nearly 16 years I've been working for myself, turning up every day. It's minimum. Doing this every, it's like, it's a bad thing. And I couldn't do that if I wasn't having a laugh.
Yeah.
So
we don't, I know it sounds very flippant. We don't half take life too seriously, don't we?
I know, totally.
It's way too serious. I want to come back before I let you go. I do want to come back. I can hear a few listeners in my head saying, it's all well and good, but I'm struggling to pay the bills. I'm trying to get this business off the ground. I can't be myself. That's what they're saying. I can hear them. They're saying I can't be myself. But what are for those people, if you could just break it down into a couple of your experience, a couple of very tangible sort of steps, can you just give them a bit of a guide as to how to just, drip feed that confidence level through?
I mean, I hope it's okay to say, but I've got a little thing on my site, my Toon site, which is a free guide to doing this.
I'll be clipping it in the show for sure.
I mean, I think the first thing is to sort of sit down and work out what your values are, which I know sounds a bit of a hard work and it's a bit introspective, but like, what do you want to be known for in this world? And then really have a look at your personality. If you don't need to develop a fake personality, you just need to embrace the personality you have. So if you're an accountant and you're super introverted and detail focused and anal, fantastic. You know what? That's what I want from an accountant, frankly. 100%. And then the truth is, this is the hardest truth, is I have two accountants and they're both zero qualified and they're both certified and they both have websites with blue logos on and pictures of computers. How do I pick? I pick because Bernard, I've seen him on Instagram and he shared some great tips and I like him and I liked his jumper and whatever. We all buy from people, not brands. Even if you just say you're a dog lover and occasionally you show me a picture of your dog, therefore you're going to attract people who like dogs, right? Yep. When everything else is equal, How do I decide? It's going to be something personal. And the other thing is, people are going to hate you, and that's okay. Sometimes we don't like people just because one of their nostrils is bigger than the other, or we don't even know why we don't like them. But you don't like everybody, so you can't expect everybody to like you. But just got to remember that people buy from people. And unless I can see who you are, I'm not going to know who you are, and I'm not going to trust you. So just slip it in. Just start, maybe every 10th post, share a personal post about your weekend. What did you do at the weekend?
Yeah.
You don't need to share pictures of your kids, but your pets don't mind. Share pictures of your pets. Talk about a book you're reading. Talk about a podcast you listen to. Talk about a movie you enjoyed. All of that is going to help people create an impression of who you are and just make you a more rounded out real person rather than a LinkedIn profile,
I saw this a very, very just a couple of days ago, actually, a very funny parody of LinkedIn, where I think it was four mates having a beer. And one like finished his beer and said, I'm starting a new beer. And everyone was like, congratulations. And, and all this sort of stuff. Well deserved and all that sort of jazz. And they talk to each other like you would on LinkedIn. It was so funny. It was really, really.
Now there's like bots that will write your responses anyway. And it's just, it's all revolting. So
It is. And it sort of relates to Jonathan Creek, who I had on a few episodes ago. He talked
Jonathan Creek.
not the one on the TV show.
Oh, okay, yeah.
No. No. But that's just very, very Northern England reference. He talked about the fact that he's going to actually start putting a purposeful part of all his posts, saying this post was made by a human, as opposed to this post was made by AI and all that sort of stuff. That's almost becoming the assumption, right? That everything's being AI'd.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. If you start putting your personalities in and type, like I'm a copywriter. I still make typos in my posts, but at least people know it's not AI. So yeah, it's crazy. A crazy world we're living in, and how to get cut through. It's so noisy. There's so many channels. There's so much is to turn up a lot. And the only way you can really turn up a lot is if you're dead comfy with yourself, no matter how you look, no matter whatever. And you're confident that whatever comes out of your mouth is going to be okay-ish. We're all going to make mistakes. Of course I've said stupid things on the internet. Of course I have. And then I've just apologized and say, oh, sorry, that was a mistake. Shouldn't have said that. I'll try better. Usually that stops the pitchforks and people step back, as long as you can admit, as long as you don't hold on to your mistake, cling to it screaming, then generally people will be like, all right, there'll be someone else to pick on tomorrow, so yeah.
Is that just one last question? Is that a case is that a DNA thing, or can that be a learned behavior?
Oh, it's very learned. I mean, I will say, I'm long into this. For the first few years on the internet, when I was really trying to build this up, I made awful mistakes and said stupid things and did cling to my mistakes and was like, yeah, that was funny. What are you talking about? It's just a joke. No, you never win in that situation. Even though you may think the people commenting are daft, it's always just easier to take the moral high ground and just be like, yeah, fair enough. So that is definitely learned behavior. I'm much less of an idiot than I used to be. Still quite a lot of an idiot, not as much.
Oh man, what a great sentence to bring this episode to the head on.
That could be the tagline for the.
I'm not as much of an idiot as I used to be. That's the title. I'm going to write that down.
Oh, fantastic! Thank you. You're brilliant. I said some clever things as well, but you're picking that. Never mind.
Oh, John, I think that sums it up beautifully in the sense of you are such an easy person to talk to.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
But there's clearly a heck of a lot of depth behind this simplistic Northern England facade. And it's.
I hope so.
No, it is. It's fabulous. It's so rich. And I don't know whether it's because I'm not quite as Northern England, but north of the Watford Gap anyway. So.
Sort of, yes. Don't worry. You can join the gang.
Thanks. Now, one last question before I let you go. We always ask again. We're all sort of looking for the next thing. You've mentioned before we got started that you really wanted to turn the bookstore around, and you've got yourself some challenges that you've got coming up and what have you, wanting to spend more time with your son. So we're all trying to strive to be a little bit better in one element of our lives, right? So on your path moving forward, what is perhaps the one thing that you really want to get better at in your pursuit of your version of high performance?
Being able to relax, being able to not work, to not be productive, to let my brain slip sideways and not come up with a new idea, not make a new thing, and just take over. I've been working at kind of a pitch for a long time now, and I need to be able to let that go and not lose my identity with it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Relax.
Relax. Don't be as much of an idiot. Yeah, wonderful. Look, Kate, thank you so much. This has been an absolute joy. I'm so glad that we got connected by Leslie. It's just been absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Team, thank you so much for your time as well. I'm sure you got stacks out of this. I know I have. I'm just looking down at my notes. It's one of the episodes I've probably not taken quite as many notes as this, which is really interesting.
Good.
God.
When's your book coming out?
My book's out Jan 28th.
Okay.
Jan 20. Success Curious.
That's a good title.
Success Curious. So, yes. So, team, hopefully you've taken as many notes as what I have, man, because there are so many little one-liners that Kate just mentions there, and it's because of how unassuming she is. If you're not careful, you'll blink and you'll miss them. So make sure that you listen to this episode a few times because there's plenty in there. Until next time, though, gang, stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy. Thank you so much for joining us once again. And we'll speak to you on the next episode. Take it easy.